This is Keys to the Shop, episode 433. The truth behind staff and customer loyalty. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DiFiorio. I'm your host for the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I would encourage you to subscribe to the show. Just hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and also don't forget to share these episodes on social media with your team, with your connections. Let people know about Keys to the Shop. That would be wonderful. Doesn't take very long to do. And also, if you are positively impacted by the content of the show over the years, I would love it if you would take just a second to give a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. That would be wonderful as well. It really helps the show in the rankings, helps more people find this great information. So thank you very much, everybody. Now, I want to make you aware of Keys to the Shop Consulting. Keys to the Shop Consulting is all about helping independent coffee shop owners like yourself get to the next level with operations, people, and quality, or to help you start off on the right foot if you are just getting into the coffee industry. This means one-on-one coaching with myself to help you through the details of things like cafe layout, menu development, pricing, management, operations, SOPs, checklists, culture, hiring, and more. So there's a lot of people that I work with who are either just starting out, like I mentioned, or they have cafes where I've been able to give an assessment on site, and we're doing coaching right now to help them work through what we have found and refine what's happening. All this is in service of helping you have joy and fulfillment in the process of running and owning a coffee shop, and helping your vision really take off and become a reality. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to have some one-on-one coaching with myself through Keys to the Shop Consulting, go ahead and reach out, chris@keystotheshop.com. We'll set up a free discovery call, talk all about what you've got going on and how Keys to the Shop Consulting can help you. Again, that email is chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, the best thing that you can do for your customers is really stay on top of how the product is performing every day. We dial in our coffees, and sometimes the equipment that we use really stops us from doing as much as we could. Now, that is exactly why the ground control Cyclops brewer was invented, to unlock a new level of control and expression of batch brew coffee. And that's exactly what it's done over the years. It's really leveled up what we can expect from batch brew coffee. Not only that, but the SCA award-winning technology allows you to create tea, batch iced lattes, batch cold brew. And so there's a lot of profitability channels that open up as a result of this machine. So check them out at groundcontrol.coffee. Learn more about this equipment, get a feel for what it's all about, reach out to them. And if you're looking for a level up in quality for your coffee and to also increase your efficiency and productivity, then you should really consider getting the Ground Control Cyclops brewer in your store. Again, check them out over at groundcontrol.coffee. When it comes to making the right choices for your customers, one of the best choices you can make is for ingredients that make up a bulk of what you're serving them. Of course, we want to have really great milk for our beverages, but for your customers who want plant-based beverages, sourcing the right ingredients is critical. And when you don't want to compromise and you want to serve something that is designed specifically for the professional coffee community, then you have to use the Barista series from Pacific. It's the line of plant-based performance beverages that is designed for baristas and tested by some of the world's best baristas before you even get it in your store. Reach out to pacificfoodservice.com to get samples in your shop today and try it for yourself and see how it stands up to the heat from steaming. It creates this awesome texture for every drink, and it also keeps the balance focused on the coffee. That flavor is just well balanced in the cup. So again, pacificfoodservice.com. If you're looking for the best plant-based beverages for your customers, I think it needs to be the Barista series from Pacific. All right, everybody. Well, today I wanted to talk to you about customer and staff loyalty. And this is a really big topic because, frankly, our businesses depend upon, first of all, customer loyalty, or at least repeat business from customers. And then we all want a stable staff. And the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of turnover in cafes, and obviously not all of that turnover that happens in a coffee shop is because of things that had to happen, like, well, we're moving away, or, I graduated college and now I'm going to get a job in my field, and understandable reasons. There are a lot of people who leave coffee shops for a lot of different reasons, and some of that is based on the fact that they may not be the right fit for that particular cafe. And, a lot of it is also stuff that can be avoided by how we provide for our staff in the kind of way we lead and manage. And this is also true about customer loyalty. There is a certain way that we will create value for the customer that will allow them to make the decision to come to our coffee shop almost exclusively if they really enjoy what we do. The question that we ask ourselves is, how do I find loyal staff and win loyal customers? And the question comes up, like I said, all the time. And with staff, we try to get them with benefits, incentives of all kinds. And with customers, we offer deals, discounts, specials, and we dance whatever dance we think is going to get us the result we want with our customers and our staff. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about these two areas of loyalty that we seek after and give you some ideas about how we can approach this and maybe some ways to think about it that will transform your business. Now, I want to start first by making the point that the question about finding loyal staff and winning loyal customers and really pursuing means to generate loyalty is an assumptive kind of pursuit because it assumes a desire that customers and staff want to leave. They don't necessarily want to come to your coffee shop, but you've got to get them to stay, which means that if you don't get them to stay, like get them, like make them do it, that they on their own will just leave. And well, why would they want to leave? Shouldn't that be the first place to focus our attention in our efforts? If you have the thought in your mind that, people are going to just want to leave, then I guess you have to figure out why they want to leave in the first place. So instead of saying, I'm going to offer discounts and I'm going to offer incentives beyond the basics of the fact that, let's just say the basics for staff would be that it's a great culture with mature leadership and a living wage. People are being paid what they can be paid by the company for the role. Those are the basics. And within that, if you're hiring people that are mature people, then, the generation of motivation is up to them. You don't necessarily need to trick them to stay. So far as it depends on you, if you are excellent in the basics, your staff are going to see this, right? And that's easier said than done. And we've got lots of episodes about this. In fact, one called Top 10 Ways to Lose Employees, which we'll link to in the show notes, which you should probably listen to after this episode. All that said, if you have the inkling that people are fickle and that they want to leave employment or they want to leave your establishment as customers, then there's a part of you that kind of knows what that is. And so we don't often dwell on that particular question. But as I've talked with people and done a lot of coaching, there are areas that people know need to be worked on. Yet because of how many areas they know need to be worked on, what ends up happening is we just stall out. We don't work on anything at all. And so what it's like is we just say, well, the day has its own concerns, and so I'm going to chase whatever is required of me this day. I'm going to put fires out. But the things that I know are going to make a difference in my cafe, fixing this, purchasing that, communicating this, and putting this memo out, there's a lot of little things that can make a big difference that sometimes we just don't take on because we feel defeated in the midst of the many, many different things. And that's understandable. But that is the key to how people will feel about your space. It is all the little details that go into the experience that both your customers and your staff have. These are two sets of people that have a need for hospitality in your business. Yeah, the staff are providing hospitality to your customers, but you are providing hospitality to your staff. You give them what they need. You are good with communication, clarity, resources, and equipping them for success. And you have to define what success looks like for them as well. This is how we actually show hospitality to a person who signs up to be a partner with us in this business. They put it in the application because they want to make coffee at your coffee shop. And that is automatically a vote in favor of them being loyal to you. Okay, so we start with a positive there. But when it comes to staff loyalty, what we end up doing is we concoct lots of ways that it would be up to clever tricks and benefits. And that's not always the case. Because again, I think we're just assuming by discussing this that people are fickle and trying not to shop at the cafe or trying to simply get out of being an employee as soon as possible. More likely than not, if you perceive somebody to be fickle and that they're not as loyal as a customer or as a staff member as you would like them to be, there's probably a really good reason for it. And if we look in the mirror and we see reflected back to us the problems of the cafe and our own part to play in creating the organizational status quo, the culture, then we're going to get some answers. And that's the first point, is that you can't assume that people are just fickle. You have to start with an assumption that people want to come to your coffee shop. They give you a chance because, like I said in the last episode on Keys to the Shop, we're talking about winning in retail specialty coffee. People have been hurt by coffee in the past, and because of that, they're going to give you a chance. Your staff are the same way. They have had bad bosses. They've worked in places where the experience was not great, and now this is a great opportunity. You are going to have to view this as a joyful and exciting opportunity to show your staff and customers just how good an employment or a coffee experience can be. That, if you start from there, is going to win you a lot more loyalty than starting with the idea that these people are just going to do me wrong. And so I need to dangle all manner of carrots in front of their face in order to keep them. This is just a black hole that we fall down. That brings me to kind of my second point, which is that gimmicks, specials, discounts, all of that stuff, more often than not, are desperate bids to win something that the basics is meant to win, that the basics is meant to create. And so in the process of chasing gimmicks and BOGO specials and discounts and stuff like that, you end up losing your identity. You end up losing the thing that people actually came to you for the purpose of, oh, there's a new coffee shop in town. We're going to give it a shot. And the insecurity of the operation is evident in that it's evolved to become way more complex. Question marks start popping up everywhere, like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? There's so many things to choose from. It becomes really oppressive. And we start trying to give the place away, almost like we're apologizing before we even have a chance to do anything wrong. You can't be all things to all people, of course. And for some people, your coffee shop might not be their coffee shop, and that's fine. But if you chase discounts and specials, not only are you going to lose your identity, you might lose your business. I mean, you might lose it because you're not making money and you're so afraid that people are super fickle and sensitive. You created sort of a avatar of your customer that is not a very generous view of who they are. If you look around you, think about how much money people spend on the most inane things. Well, I mean, I say that because I might not be into it, but the person who spends a lot of money on something that maybe I feel is not worth the money, to them it is. Why? Because the value has been shown by the person selling them, and that person buying them has a connection to it. That is why people spend a lot of money on coffee or on shoes or on tickets to concerts, and they are predicting a return on that investment. And it's part of their identity as well. It doesn't start with that, though. Loyalty actually comes when people are kind of gung-ho and far along in their journey with that brand or that thing, that pursuit, and it becomes a part of their identity. But it starts with kind of a vote of confidence to say, I'm going to try it out. Oh, that felt good, or that tasted good, or that sounded good. Good, I'm going to do that again. And we keep doing it, and we develop this affinity. This is how a lot of us got into coffee, if we're honest. We didn't start being loyal to coffee, thinking we're going to be in coffee professionally our whole lives when we started to taste coffee. It slowly unfolded, and as the checks built up in the pro column and not the con column, those checks outweighed the negatives, and those negatives might be negatives in the checkbook or elsewhere, but to us, it's worth it. And so people are willing to pay money for value, and value is really up to how you communicate it to people. People depend on you to communicate value. And so in that way, you have to say, well, what is it that I'm offering people in terms of experience? When I have a staff member come work for me, I mean, honestly, what is the ideal staff experience look like? Now, we've talked about customer experience mapping. What does it look like when they walk in? How do you want them to experience the condiment bar, the bathroom, ordering, all that stuff? We're like, yes, we need to please the customer. But have you ever thought about this regarding your staff? Well, that's another level that can win you loyalty of your staff, is that you are showing loyalty to them. If you want to have loyalty, you need to give loyalty. That's the same with trust, by the way. Okay. This is what it's like to be in leadership, is that you have to take the first step. There's risk involved, for sure. You might hire the wrong person. They might screw you over. That happens all the time. Many of my clients have to deal with this, And if you're not thinking about how you can serve, then you might screw people over too. Owners, operators, managers, you have stepped in it. Let's face it. There have been people who have left who shouldn't have left, but because of our bad leadership, they're gone. And who can blame them? And the temptation is to say, well, they weren't the right fit for us. Well, maybe we just weren't serving them well enough. Are we loyal to our staff? Are we loyal to our customers first? Then we can expect that. I like how Danny Meyer put this in Setting the Table, when he was talking about how he constantly feels like he and his restaurants are running for office. You're convincing people in a way, like saying, we're here for you. We want to represent you. We want to serve you. And we're making that case. And why do we have to make that case over and over again? Why? Because people have other things going on in their life. And frankly, it's going to take a long time for them to become saturated in all things your coffee shop, right? They're going to leave your coffee shop. It's going to be a coffee, and it's going to be a nice, pleasant experience. They're going to go home, but it becomes something really deep and meaningful to them the more consistent it is over time, because they do have other things going on. That's the same with your staff. Your staff have other lives. They will never care about your business as much as you do. They're not supposed to. They do have pursuits outside of work. Sometimes we conflate loyalty with people fully abandoning themselves to the business. Because we don't have people answering their phones at 7 p.m., we're like, they should be available. They should be available at 11:30 p.m. Or they're not doing things that we want them to do that are outside their job description. We're like, well, that doesn't prove their loyalty to the business. Well, that's just a toxic kind of perspective right there. You have to view people as people. And there are limits. Loyalty has nothing to do with, a constant proving yourself to the owner whose job it seems it is to constantly doubt your loyalty. That nobody wants to be in an environment like that. Let's start by assuming the best, by having charitable assumption, by saying, I know my staff want to do a great job, and I'm so grateful that they're here because they're working to make my dream of owning a coffee shop come true. And I'm going to serve them the best as I possibly can. These customers, they don't have to spend their money in my coffee shop. They don't know who I am. They're finding out And I have a deep responsibility. I feel that urgency to follow through with the promise of a great experience and innovate ways to make sure that that experience is great for both this group of people, my staff, and this group of people, my customers. See how different that is. Okay. Now, people want something that feeds their short and long-term needs. That means that when you go to a coffee shop, what do you want? Coffee. That's the first thing you want. That's what I want. When I walk into a coffee shop, maybe I want a chai. Maybe I want a bottled water that day. I don't know what it is. If I'm not getting a coffee and I get a bottled water, or if I get a cookie or whatever, no matter what, I know that there's a very specific reason I walked into that coffee shop and exchanged money for a service. Now, the primary reason, of course, is the transaction. Transactional is where we start. That's like saying service versus hospitality. Service is doing the thing that we want people to do, which is make coffee and give us the coffee because we gave you money. This is how it works. Now, what happens between that and during that time is the other need that people have, and that is the long-term need. And it takes a little bit longer for that aspect, that hospitality aspect, that how you feel in that moment aspect, to become something the customer can identify as a value-added experience for your business. So there's the value add, which is immediate, which is the transaction. Your coffee should be tasty. It should be the right temperature, texture, volume, ratio, all of the things that we want the technical to be. You got the correct change. The toilet paper in the bathroom wasn't out. The condiment bar didn't need to be restocked, and your table wasn't wobbly. Like Will Guidara says in our episode about unreasonable hospitality, excellence is table stakes. It's the cost of admission. So when you get to the point where you have done excellent work in the basics of the service experience, that's when the other experience starts to really begin. So first, are you doing the first things? Next, are you making people feel great and connecting with their deeper needs in the midst of it? This is like the 1-2 punch, which maybe, I don't know, that's probably a terrible analogy. The two-armed hug for hospitality, who knows? That's so stupid. But the point is that it is a great combination of a thought around what you're offering your customers and what you're offering your staff. Frankly, we don't think often enough about just how much of a person's life work takes up. Now, you might think about it for you, especially as an owner, that's going to be an exorbitant amount of time, when you're first starting out, especially. But even if you're working a full-time job as a barista, you realize how much of a person's best time they're giving you. That's a lot. And their emotional needs and their existential thoughts don't actually stop while they're on shift. The wiring is there. They're tuning in to what is meaningful. And if we can take it upon ourselves to fulfill the transactional with them, which is first pay them on time, have a consistent schedule, be clear, communicate well, don't be toxic, don't be overbearing, lead with joy and by example with integrity and humility. There's so many different things, right? Now, if you're doing those are the basics. But the other stuff on top of that, like specific affirmation to people that you are paying attention to, speaking into their work in a way that touches their heart and not just their head, really starting by caring. It's amazing how much we want people to care about our business, but we actually don't start out by caring about them first. That, to me, is the price of admission. If you want people to care about the business, they will care when they know how much you care. That's the old saying, right? So that is your job, is to figure that part out. So people want something that feeds their short and long-term needs. And then connecting with people on that level is all about integrity, vulnerability, and the purity of your others-focused intention. I say this to people all the time. There aren't very many hacks and tricks that can overcome what you yourself do not believe. If you truly don't care about your customers or your staff, you can't fake it till you make it. You either believe it or you don't. I can tell you that, but it's up to you to go into a dimly lit room with a candle and some Enya and just go deep inside yourself and figure that stuff out, whatever it takes for you to come face to face with what does it look like to have this others focused intention and integrity as an owner and operator. You do have this power that everybody is counting on you to use for their benefit, for the business's sustainability, and for the customer experience. This is the first step. So the last point that I want to make here is that you don't get loyalty. I almost don't want to say you win loyalty, but you don't get loyalty, you earn it. You earn loyalty. Now, the earning is based on everything we just talked about. It's based on the idea that we start the conversation automatically caring first. And we are stronger together. We are not lording it over people. Even though we are kind of separate from the culture, we are still an integral part and a foundational element. We are the platform on which people will find success in their vocation. And many people I know in coffee have stayed in coffee, or they've left coffee and gone on to do great things, a lot of times because they had such an amazing boss. They had such an amazing experience in coffee. I know a lot of people who also have had the exact opposite experience. They have gone and it's left a bad taste in their mouth. And it does not do well for life in general, because your bad experience that you have at a coffee shop as a barista translates to some kind of a dysfunction passed on to later jobs in other industries. We're all connected here. So you need to take your job and say, look, I have a set of responsibilities. I have a deep and urgent need to use this role to serve others. And I know that we are stronger because we are together in this. It's not these people, I can't believe these people, or these customers just don't get it. These staff don't get it. It's a lonely place being an owner. I get it. In that isolation oftentimes breeds not only a loneliness, but it warps reality. You're not as separate as you think. The reason why you're not as separate as you think is because your power magnifies your presence. And you are even if you think you're isolated, even your absence is seen because of the fact that you're the owner. And so we need to push into the idea that we have a commission. We are to serve and we earn loyalty. If we don't think about this as something that we earn over time, we're going to fall back to what we just talked about. You don't want to do to try to gain loyalty, which is gimmicks, which is making less money by giving things away constantly. And, these specials and basically just crowding your menu up with things that you hope are going to work because other things, maybe don't seem like they're working or whatever. The idea here is that the gimmicks, the buy one, get one, the discounts, the way we lose our identity in this desperate bid to try to almost trick people into becoming. And no one really owes you their loyalty. That's a good thing. It is good because if they did, you would never know how to truly improve. You would be lied to. Is that what you really want? Is people to only show up because of some need that they have for loyalty, but they're not going to tell you the truth of how you can get better in operating your business? The fact that people are going to go to different places or do choose to spend their money elsewhere is actually a positive thing because it shows you where you can improve. If you just focus on the basics and straight up loving people through the vocation, through serving them in your role in a professional way with the basic needs of employees and customers, this is really what people want. It truly is. And sometimes I think this when I go into like a barbecue restaurant and I'm just like, barbecue is almost never a good idea to do in a fine dining setting. I have been to a fine dining barbecue place before and it was weird. I was like, this does not feel right. There's something satisfying and homey about, I have a place next to me, near here in Louisville called the Shack in the Back. They expanded to a bigger restaurant. It's still pretty rustic. The other place was literally a shack in the back. and I loved it. It was not pretentious. It met your needs. People were friendly. The food was good. People were polite. It came out hot and tasty. It was great. And we overcomplicate things sometimes. The truth is staring us right in the face. And it's interesting, as I'm thinking about this, the truth can be staring you right in the face, and we won't embrace it because we're trying to avoid something that seems difficult to change. Us. It's hard to change us. It's hard to change the basics. It's easier to chase down other reasons. But I would encourage you to take today's episode and think about the points made. Think about how we are specializing in caring for others through the operations, through our role, using our power for the benefit of others as operators, as leaders. Think about the assumptions we bring to the table when it comes to loyalty and what actually brings people in, the short-term value of the transaction and the excellence of it, and then the meaning and connection and love people feel that it happens on top of that. Those are the basics. And the better we get at the basics, the better your business is going to be. And if you want to put a special out there once in a while to say, hey, we're going to have a special on coffee drinks, fine. But if that special or that gimmick or that benefit or whatever it is that you're trying to do is coming before those basics, it's just going to fall flat. So my intention here is to help us start from the right place and build from there. Loyalty is based on the relationship, and that relationship has to be based on good faith, consistency, values in action, clarity of intention, and follow through. This is what I have to say about staff and customer loyalty, and I hope that something here today resonated with you. And the best thing that I could hear is that you took something here, shared it with your team, put it into action. Start small, make it established, let it grow roots, put something else into action. One or two things thoroughly integrated and applied, then you repeat. That's the rhythm if you get something from a podcast like this or any other resource. So hopefully this had some stuff in it that will really help you. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback for me today about today's episode, go ahead and email chris@keystotheshop.com. That's also where you can reach out for Keys to the Shop consulting. If you want to have a one-on-one custom coaching package for your business and your context, we dive deep into what is needed in your business, how to get you to the next level, I would love to have that conversation. Just reach out for a free discovery call, chris@keystotheshop.com. You can also DM me on Instagram @KeysToTheShop. Follow us there as well. Now, this year, I have been having such a great time with Coffee Fest. CoffeeFest.com is where you go to learn more about this 30-year-old trade show. I've been doing this since 2004 as an instructor, presenter, a judge, a competitor, etc. And I've just loved seeing the evolution of this trade show as not only a place where you can interact with awesome vendors for your coffee shop, but also where you can get educated on operating a great coffee shop through lectures, panel discussions, workshops, and trainings. And it covers the gamut of tons of different topics that I also partake in and teach things like systems and leadership and management, etc. And so I would encourage you to go to coffeefest.com. Orlando is the next show coming up in Florida in November 10th and 11th. Use the code KEYS, KEYS, to get 50% off your registration when you do a general admission. KEYS is the code. And if you reach out to them directly, be sure to let them know that Keys to the Shop sent you. And I really hope to see you at one of these shows coming up. So again, awesome event and resource at coffeefest.com. And with that, that is the end of today's show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to the show, share these episodes with a friend and with your team. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.